And we are live. Today, we already have a different set of hosts as we are kind of making it a trend because last time I was feeling unwell. To be fair, today I'm also feeling unwell, and Nathan is also feeling unwell from what he told me. But
Likewise.
Pumba managed to find a great excuse with his brother getting stuck in the middle of nowhere somewhere in beautiful, flat Poland. So he is not joining us because he's waiting for some auto parts, apparently.
Hmm.
But yeah, skipping that, how was the your time since the last episode, Nathan?
It's been good. Just getting on with life as normal. Weather is taking an absolute dive here in England, so it's just everybody's getting ill and it's raining. It's miserable. Everyone's depressed.
I
Usual
think that's
stuff.
like the usual experience.
Usual thing, yeah. Uh, Other than that, not too much difference. Yourself? Have you gotten over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, we actually went to the Pyra Cup with Pumba. I was not
Hmm.
supposed to be playing there, but Victor had to drop out on like last minute on Friday. So
Okay.
I had like 20 hours to learn Voltan. So thankfully they
Easy.
have like 6 data sheets, which makes it easy. And they
Yeah.
are not as difficult to start with them. After playing 5 games with them, I can tell I'm not made to play an army that moves 5 inches. It
Fair.
just
Fair enough.
pains me, and I'm not used to needing to think so much in advance.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. But I've got to play a little bit, and I think I've got the drive to play a little bit more again, which wasn't a thing for me for a longer time. But now that I've played 2 events, I'm starting to kind of enjoy 40k again. So we'll
Yes.
see. I'm
Yeah.
going to an event in 2 weeks. Then in 4 weeks, we've got another teams event where I'm taking 2 new prospects for Team Poland because, weirdly enough, this weekend where we went Pyra Cup, there were 2 guys that I knew their faces from there because they were for like 5 years in Warhammer Fantasy Battle Polish national team.
Okay.
And then they were in the Polish national team for X-Wing for like 4 consecutive years. And now they switched to 40k. So I was like, you know what? I might give them a try because
Yeah.
that's a decent history, if I might say.
Yeah. As long
So
as they learn
there's
the game. Yeah. All good.
yeah, you don't need to worry about the mental and such. So
No.
yeah, we'll see. And then next week I'm going to Edinburgh for a 5-man team event with my son Brian, Ines, and
Oh
Chris.
yeah.
So
That'll be
we're
fun.
gonna take some weird armies. I hope that Warhound Titan actually is found in Scotland so I can play it.
uh, there's weird lists and then there's extreme lists. So yeah, see if that works.
Extreme, dare you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Definitely. Because aren't they even banned at WTC?
Yeah,
So yeah. But might as well try where you can.
with a change of how towering works, they must be good, right?
Sure. Definitely. But
So
this week's
yeah,
episode, we are going to be focusing on an event I went to last weekend called Battle of Britain. So this was a 6-man team event, which is actually relatively uncommon. It seems to be 4, 5, or 8, but this one was 6. We had 10 teams, 3 English teams, 3 Scottish teams, 3 Welsh teams, and 1 Northern Ireland team. In the end, what we decided to do as Team England was, well, the original plan, I'll go through what actually happened. The original plan was to have a couple of people who were either already on the team or were part of the coaching staff be split over the 3 teams, and then you take people who are generally interested in being on Team England and or basically prospects that might even make the team, split over those 3 teams. What actually ended up happening is one team became a bit of a super team because they had 3 members of the team went to the WTC and played last year. Another member of the team had 2 golds and a bronze at the WTC, or sorry, ETC at the time, and then 2 of the stronger prospects coming into it. So, spoiler alert, that they could do quite well. But at first, I will go through my team's lists, and then I'll kind of give a brief overview of how we did and a brief overview of how I personally did. But obviously, we'll go through some of the other Team England lists because obviously we ended up playing both of them. So it'd be good for context to see what their lists were.
So from what I got, let me interrupt you quickly.
Mhm.
So from what I got, it was mostly like a field test event that you
Yes.
guys wanted to just try out, play some fun games, and that's also what I got from the England Lions podcast, Lions Den, something like that. That's what where Chewy with Adam and Chris are doing a series of podcasts. We'll see how well will they stick to it, but fingers crossed because I actually enjoyed some good 40k competitive content. But from what they said, it's mostly for you guys to try out new people and try out new armies. And that's where, before you get to the list, I'm like curious how much of you guys try to go for armies that are weird, because you know that everything you test now will to some extent transfer to next WTC, right? So how much did you take into account playing armies that you for sure know that they won't get the codex till next WTC? How did you guys approach it? Did you have a higher order from higher ups, or?
So the three teams were left to their own devices. Overall, though, there was an overview of each of the team captains and Josh, because he's very involved in the team, were able to see all of the individual private chats as well. With the idea that nobody would copy lists, that kind of idea. Nobody would tell anybody anything, and that's pretty much what happened. So the idea was that the captains were going to choose. Now, my particular captain chose that he would like to win the event. So we did gear a little bit more towards what you would maybe want to take for the top 6, rather than necessarily testing weird and wacky lists. However, some of the other England teams were a little bit more experimental with their lists. I know Tony's team definitely had more interesting lists, like they had Vanguard Tyranids, trying them out. Tony's Dark Angels list was quite different to the other 2 England Marine lists, which were both relatively similar. But overall, yeah, we kind of felt we would take more of what we felt is like the top 6 kind of lists for our team. Should I jump into the list?
Yeah, go for it.
So, our team is called Ingerland, but say it louder and more yobbish. So we'll start off with Ed, who was on Grey Knights. So I'll give a rough idea. We took Grey Knights, Tau, Chaos Knights, CSM, Eldar, and Marines, which you would kind of argue is some of the top 6.
Yeah, probably missing Voton.
Yeah, so rather than Voton, we had like Tau. But we had a player who specializes in Tau, like Mr. UK Tau player. So, Ed's list with Grey Knights. I'll try and run through these quite quickly. Apologies, they're not up on screen. But we've got a Brother Captain with Sigil, 3 single Librarians, Castellan Crow, Drago, 10 Terminators, a Strike Squad, another Strike Squad, a 10-man Paladin Squad, and a 10-man Purifier Squad. So this is the Purifier Bomb type thing. 2 big blocks of Terminators with some Strike Squads. Loads of characters. Libbies are kind of operating individually by themselves.
As one of the only sources of anti-tanking the army.
Yeah, it's like the main source of the damage in the list. But inevitably, it actually did pay out quite well. It played some lists. I think he did quite well into Eldar. He lost a couple of games to CSM, but overall did well. We had Mark Pocock, who took Dark Angels, version of Space Marines. Like, this is where... But all three of the teams took Dark Angels, but after all of us playing them, definitely Blood Angels is the better option. The Dark Angels gave some useful things just to put the... what's it called? The shrouding land speeder thing in.
Dark Shroud, yeah.
Yeah. The Dark Shroud in, which we thought would be like quite optimum. In the end, kind of helps you for 1 or 2 turns. After that, it's quite expensive, doesn't really do a lot, to be honest.
And like forces you to play in one spot, which is less than ideal.
Exactly. So having the option, granted, say for example, Atlanta have just FAQ'd some things that maybe affects the Blood Angels list. Having Lamartis with a big unit death company is a big thing to have in your list, I think. Gives you really, especially on WTCC terrain or heavier terrain. So I definitely see like Blood Angels probably being the more coherent.
That is interesting to hear, because Leshu was playing Blood Angels in not Iron Storm, but the Flame Storm. I don't know, the one,
Whatever
Salamanders. And he was rather cold on the Dev Company after his games. Although he got to play Eldar 3 times and he hated every second of it.
Well, yeah, that is unfortunately part of the game. But so yeah, the Dark Angels, Lieutenant with a combi weapon, Tech Marine with Target Augury Web, Master of the Machine War on 2 of those. Then Adept of the Omissar. Then we've got, 2 Inceptor squads, 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, Dark Shroud, triple Redemptor Dreadnought, because that seems to be the most common thing these days. 3 Scout squads, 3 Whirlwinds. So a lot of the Marines, I think me and Pumba discussed it last week, a lot of the Marines do kind of fall between the same units. Redemptor Dreadnoughts, Whirlwinds, Triple Scouts. Inceptors, I think, are the best thing in the book, so I would normally see at least 9 to 12 Inceptors. I'd even be tempted by 1 unit of 6.
Which works better in the Salamanders.
Sure, yeah. We've got my list, which was, this is super easy, 1 Stalker with sticky objectives, 6 Carnivals, 6 Brigands, because I didn't have the Demon Allies. What else we got? We got Kyle Grundy on Tau. So he's got Orn Var, a commander in Cold Star with the exemplar of the Carrion. Another commander in the Cold Star. Breacher Squad, Devilfish. Broadside Team, Crisis Battlesuit, big unit of Crisis Suits, another big unit of Crisis Suits, Pathfinder Team, Piranha, 1, 2, 3 single Piranhas, 2 or 3 Tetris. Yeah, 3 Tetris. So relatively standard kind of Tau stuff.
Yeah. How did it work for you? I'm rather cold on Tau right now.
They were kind of useful in pairings of just, they never really lost big, and they give you some useful pairings, but I'm cold on Tau right now. I just feel like in a fixed meta, they give away too many points. For people who are trying to...
Yeah, my reasoning for me is that they were good in more of a Death Star meta.
Yeah,
and with us moving to more MSU transporty meta, that's where the issue stands for Tau. Because activation locking is something that Tau just cannot deal with.
No, they can't. And I think the more the MSU game expands, the weaker Tau feel, to be honest.
Yeah. Like, I do not have them in my 8, for example.
No, I would... Yeah, Tau are going to be, for me personally, dependent on the meta. Like you say, if there's Death Stars or they do a very specific role, go back in. Until then, I probably wouldn't take them over something like Votan.
Yeah.
But then again, not everybody has a Votan army. They've only just got good again. Then we've got our glorious captain, Chris Kinnair, Abaddon of CSM, Abaddon, a Corn Lord with the Talisman of Burning Blood, a Chaos Lord of Undivided, Cultist Mob, one Rhino, the 10-man Terminators, 5 chosen that are Corn, and then 5 chosen that are Undivided, and then 2 Forge Fiends, 2 Warp Talon units, and then with Demon Allies, he's got 3 Nurglings, whatever the fuck her name is, Sislisk or whatever her name, Celesk. But absolutely
You got it.
that. Yeah, Celesk. And then the Blue Scribes. So obviously leading up to that, we were wondering, do you put the demons in the CK or the CSM? Definitely makes the CSM stronger. Massively makes the CK stronger. I was outvoted. I think it overall for a team, demons in CK is better, but again, it kind of works better.
I got the absolute pleasure last weekend to get WTO'd by Liam VSL. And seeing that army play, he had only Blue Scribes in it. I completely feel like they might as well not be in that army, and it will still work as well.
Yeah, I think they can still take stuff.
Yeah, like it genuinely feels like for that price point, you might as well take, I don't know, Dark Commune with the eye for generating CP. Or stuff like that, rather than starving your other armies. Because CK, I still think CK can play without demons, but for example, I think if you are even looking at Death Guard, you need to have demons for Death Guard.
Yes. Yeah, Death Guard have to have them because they don't have enough units otherwise. CK, I kind of felt, so I'll go through my matches a bit later. I felt I was probably, bar one of the games, I think I lost about 2 points a game not having the Demon Allies. Last list in our team, which is a bit of an oddball list. So this was one we were testing, was Eldar. Eldar's not a test, but Autark with Wayleaper, Farseer. Obviously, the Wayleaper's got Phoenix Gem, a Farseer Skyrunner, Spirit Seer, and a third Spirit Seer. Give away that. And then, is it actually on his list? Young Khan's in there somewhere. Definitely has Young Khan. A single Night Spinner, a unit of Rangers, 1, 2, 3 units of Hawks, and then 30 Wraith Guard. Oh, sorry, doesn't have Young Khan. We dropped Young Khan for 30 Wraith Guard.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like it fits.
No, it didn't. No, we didn't have Young Khan. It was 30 Wraith Guard, so that we were testing that with the idea of, can it play other Eldar? Can it play just bully certain matchups even more? And actually, in some cases, it actually was interesting to take on the team. We actually had James probably didn't feel like he was a aggressive enough player to use it. But then again, still scored 83 points, which was good.
Expected from Eldar, to be fair.
Yeah. I don't know if we got to see it into some of the... I don't think we got to see it versus another Eldar list, because that would have been interesting if you have an Eldar list that can beat another Eldar list.
Has he played CSM?
Did he play CSM? Don't think so. I think he actually just prayed and got point. Like, I remember, I think he played 2 CK armies and pushed their shit in. Because they didn't even have demons.
That one is unplayable for CK.
I think he played Necrons.
Okay, that one I would still wager Necrons win, but...
I think it was 20-0.
Okay.
Yeah. But then there's player skill and everything else. But overall, team did really well. I guess I'll go through my own personal experience first.
Yeah.
So I took Chaos Knights without the demons. I actually had quite a tough weekend, but I'm not completely happy with my performance, but I felt I did a good job for the team. Because
Weren't you
one of
like
my
sent
games,
3 times into Eldar?
yeah, so I played Eldar 3 times. So first game, I played Commie Bob, who used to play for Team England, has played Tau. I've known Bob since I was 14, so I've known him like 17 years.
Mysterious Bob.
Mysterious Bob. And very good player. And he was using Tau. Hammer and Anvil playing the disappearing objectives. So I get last turn, so that's kind of cool. So I can get the 15 on the last turn. The only problem I had was obviously he had smaller crisis units, but I had this down as like 11 to 12 points because he did actually have 3 broadsides and 2 skyrays. So he did actually have a modicum of anti-tank in there. And he got to pick the board. He had some decent fire lanes. So, you know what? I'll take 11 to 12. What ended up happening in this game was because I don't have the demons, I did have to screen out a little bit to stop crisis suits getting behind me. And so I pushed with the other 10 knights. And first turn, I was cautious, didn't really lose anything, held some primary. Then the turn that I came out with 11 of the 13 knights, he dropped 5. So push kind of over. So I had a Skyray dropped 1 by itself. Then that exploded, did 3 wounds to the knight next to him. The broadside downed that himself. So I lost 2 there. That one exploded, did some wounds to some other knights. Then a crisis unit basically killed a knight. Then he had some like piranhas and some little things, finished that knight off. He also exploded, did some wounds to the next knight. And then I had one knight who was on like 6 wounds, where he put like a ghost keel into it and a sky ray. So in the end, 4 of the 5 knights that got shot exploded, and basically I lost 4 whole knights and then 1 knight on 6 wounds. So I was like, the push is kind of over at that point. So it was kind of hide behind the terrain pieces, pick off anything that got too close. Did fixed objectives pretty comfortably, and then effectively it ended 10-10. Like it was a difference of 2 points because I got the 15 at the end, and I was like, oh, okay, fine. So you know what? I'll take 10-10 against Tau. If the push goes my way, I think it's like 12-13, maybe 14. If I can get into the right things. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think also if he had like Sky Rays, it makes the matchup slightly better for him. The regular 6-3-3 squads of Crisis or the list with more breachers are actually worse into CK than the more anti-tech. So those matchups I would wager you'd win more, but this one you could bounce off. The other ones, it's way harder for you to bounce off.
Yes, definitely. I think if it's the Breacher version or the Crisis Heavy version, I would kind of put my Matrix down as definitely with the Demons being like 14, about 14 plus. Then for the non-Demon version, like 13, realistically. Because they just don't have the high damage shots. Like Crisis units can kill knights, but again, it's you're winning on 5s, no rerolls, that kind of thing. It's less prolific. So yeah, 10-10 and Tau. Next game against the mighty Brian himself with Eldar. I don't think he'd played Chaos Knights very much because he had me down as like 15 plus in his pairings. I have played Eldar quite a few times, and little bits of luck went my way, little bit of luck went his way. It ends 10-10, which I'll take 10-10 against Eldar. A couple of the highlights of the game. It's the mission where you create your own objectives.
Ritual, yeah.
Yeah. Still don't know the names of the actual things. I just know what they do. On the first turn, I was making an objective. and he phantasmed Fjorgen towards me. I was like, screw making the objective, I'm just going to charge Fjorgen. Punched him in the face, and then he rolls a 1, doesn't get back up. So I'm like, sweet. Killed Fjorgen for losing no knights. Then his young Khan pops over, kills 1 knight. I would then proceed to shoot 4 sustained hit brigands and have 2 carnivores. Well, sorry, 1 carnivore ready to charge it. 4 sustained brigands do 2 wounds. So awesome. And don't forget the WTC, you don't have melter. So if you get any melters through, you get 4 damage.
And I think now it was also ruled for the Atlanta. So this is the rules as written. This is rules as written. So yeah. So none of the melters went through. We got you.
Stopped all of them. Just didn't do anything. I think the
and every failed one is at least 5 damage.
Exactly. And also, even the Gatlings themselves, because obviously I've lined up, he hasn't got any cover. He's on a 4+ save. Even 4 Gatlings with the sustained hits should still do like 6 wounds to it. So it's just like, and I did 2. And all the top pods as well, because you have to shoot everything at them. Yeah. So fun times. I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. But then again, he played quite aggressively, which meant that I was not scoring my cards in the first few turns. But there was one turn where I think he maybe got too aggressive, and had that turn gone well, I think I would have rolled over his list. Because that turn that I shot the young Khan with 4 brigands and had a carnivore to charge, I was able to charge the Wraithguard block with 3 carnivores, a stalker, and they were already in combat with a carnivore.
Brigand. Oh, okay.
With a carnivore. So it was one of those. If the young Khan falls over to the shooting and the Wraithguard fall over to the combat, he literally has nothing left because Fjorgen's already dead at this point. So I think I roll over him. What ended up happening was, obviously, -1 to wound, got a few misses, made him take still quite a lot of saves on the Wraithguard unit, but in the end, he passed 80% of his 5-up saves. So I think I killed 4 with 4 carnivores and a stalker. So I was like, well, that kind of sucked. But then again, I say pass all the saves. That does include you can use fate dice for a save. You can turn a save to a 6.
Yeah, on average, you should kill 7 after he auto passes 2.
Yeah, so I killed 4. It happens. So it then became a little bit more. Young Khan then did a charge on 2 knights, and Brian again was a little bit unlucky. He split his attacks onto 2 knights. 1 knight was wounded. In the end, he didn't kill either of them, and actually those 2, he'd taken some more wounds at that point. 2 carnivores actually punched her back and killed her. So in his turn, meaning then I had 2 carnivores to then like launch at him. No. So it ended up being, I ended up end scoring quite a lot with 15-15 on primary, denying him down to like 5-0 on primary, and then getting like 20-something points in cards.
So can you give like quick summary why Chaos Knights is not doomed into Eldar? Because I think this might be worthwhile for anyone listening, because it's not as bad as people say.
No, I actually, with the Demon Allies, feel that CK is somewhat, I don't want to say favored, but I would put it between the 10 and 12 point, between the 9 and 12 point.
Like if Eldar make a mistake, you exploit way better.
Yeah, on WTC terrain, you have the ability with the indirect and everything else, where he has to really trade well to win that game. So if Young Khan kills a knight and then dies, because actually with that much melter, you basically have to set up traps. You don't run at Eldar because he's just going to pick you up. You never shoot the Wraith Guard. You don't go anywhere near the Wraith Guard unless you can get like 4 charges at them. You don't even bother going anywhere near them. So then it becomes a case of you can use a lot of the terrain on a lot of the tables to basically set traps. If he moves anywhere near you, basically what you have to try and make them do is they have one turn where they have to either choose, I'm going to go super aggro and phantasm forward, or they go, I don't want to lose the Wraith Guard, and they phantasm back. As soon as they phantasm back, they lose the game. Because you pick up all the little bits of scoring. Once you pick up Fjörgen and Junkan and all the little bits of scoring, which is like 2 or 3, you kill the Farseer first turn with the indirect. So Junkan can fall over quite easily then without the -1 to wound. Then you kind of get to a point where if I'm sat on objectives and doing cards, and once I kill all your little things, you do have to start doing your secondaries with your more important units. Then it becomes like actually you're significantly taking points off. In every game this weekend, and especially against Eldar, always reserve 1 Brigand and 1 Carnivore. In every single game, I rapid ingressed 1 Carnivore into a position where it's like, okay, you're actually going to struggle now. And then that allows me to bring a Brigand on for usually where the Junkan's coming on. So he might come over. Basically, you just have to put all your knights in a place where if anything comes over, anything tries to interact with you, you get loads of knights interacting back at them. Because they have no long-range shooting. And if their knight spinners don't roll well, sometimes they roll bonkers, sometimes they roll shit. If they don't roll well, and you avoid the Wraith Guard with the terrain and staying out of 18 and just going round everything, then you actually feel it's not an awful matchup. You actually feel pretty good in that game. And to be honest, if they start chasing the game and not trying to get the draw, Josh has had it where he's beaten Eldar consistently. Matt Morsoli has shown in events that he can also beat Eldar. So I actually think that's not a bad matchup for CK. So obviously going through all the rest of my games, I played another Eldar army, identical list. The only difference was he had Phoenix Gem on the Farseer, not Wayleaper. So for that game, I decided to try Fixed because I'm like, well, I'm playing Eldar again. I'll see if Fixed is better than cards. What actually ended up happening is Fjörgen didn't get back up and the Farseer didn't get back up. So I actually lost 8 points on Assassinate. So I was like, shit. So I only got 12 points for Assassinate. And 3 times in that game, I had a Knight on 6 wounds. Knight Spinner kills it. 1 Knight Spinner kills it. Another time, has 6 wounds left. A Knight Spinner kills it. And then on the last turn, I'm burning one of the objectives. He's got 4 Wraith Guard to shoot me. I've got multiple CP, so I rotate it. 4 Wraith Guard shooting a Knight. Makes me take 1/6. And then I've got a 4+ invuln, and I've got CP to re-roll it. I pass the invuln. So 1 goes through. He uses the Fate dice, so I take 6 damage. He rolls it. I take 4 damage. So I've got 8 wounds left. He's the guy. So he's going to be the last 2 points for his, bring it down, and I get 5 points for burning the objective. And he's also in a Carnivore in a good position. And then the Knight Spinner rolls 4 6s. It's like, so he dies. So I'm like, okay. So that ended up being a 10-10. Again, that could have gone my favor because he actually played very defensively with his Wraith Guard. And in the end, all he had left was a Knight Spinner and the Wraith Guard unit. It's a full unit, but like I've killed everything else around it. Because Warp Spiders fall over. Once Junkan's dead, Warp Spiders can't really go anywhere. They just get shot. Same with Swooping Hawks. Gatlings just rinse them. That kind of thing. And CK feel really good on WTC tables because that strat is just so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the third time I played Eldar, it actually ended up being 18-2 to me because we played on the 4 objective mission.
Yeah.
And the only table he had to pick from was the one, I don't know if people are not familiar, there's one where in that particular mission, you've got 2 9-inch ruins directly on top of. So I went first and went, there's 3 knights hidden on that objective, and there's 2 knights hidden on that objective. So these are mine. So I get 12 for primary every turn, and you get 2 for primary every turn. I literally don't have to do anything. I'm going
So
to
you
beat
just
him by
sat
40.
there and waited.
No, I interacted a bit. Obviously, he then has to chase the game. He has to come into stuff. But then again, with that terrain, I was also able to be like, well, I'm literally hiding 5 carnivores. So if your Wraith Guard come anywhere near me, cool. So then once Yunkan died, I did some outflanking, picked up some in the 2 or 3 turns. I picked up all his little units with indirects and everything else. And obviously, wherever those little guys died, he could bring Yunkan over, but then you're going to get shot by other things. So it was one of those. This game was just. It was just one of those ones where it felt very comfortable, and I've just dominated you on primary because it was actually quite nice that I don't have to go anywhere in the center. Because then the Wraith Guard, what he should have done was gone, I am happy to lose the Wraith Guard unit by the end of the game, but if I clear an objective and take 4 or 5 knights with me, because if they start going that way, I do kind of have to run away from the Wraith Guard block. But then again, he could have also got charged by 5 carnivores and lost it to nothing, and then the game's mine anyway. So yeah, that ended up being I think I beat him by 2 or 3 points on cards, and then beat him by 40 on primary. So 18-2. And then my final game, which is into Matt Robertson with the New Marines. So it's my first time playing them. They're a lot better than I thought they were on paper. There's loads of little.
He was playing the Iron Storm.
Yes, yeah.
So Iron Hands.
Yeah. So he had the 3 Dreads, the Dark Angel Speeder, then 3 Tech Marines, 3 Whirlwinds, 3 Inceptor squads, 3 Scout squads, and then the Assassin as well. So it's just a lot of deep striking stuff around. But I have this in my matrix as if it starts going my way, it's like 13 plus. But I would naturally put it as a winning side of a draw. So 11-12. And I end up getting 2. Now, I've been playing since I was 10 years old, so 21 years. I have never been diced that badly in a game of 40k. Both me not being able to roll a save for all those 3 damage shots, and him just getting to do everything he wanted to do. So here's some of the highlights of the game. I shoot a brigand into one of the dreadnoughts and take exactly 7 wounds off it, so it gets to shoot me, and it kills me back. So, okay. 4 shots, 4 hits, 4 wounds, all 4 failed saves. Awesome. Dead. I was like, okay, that's annoying, but let's carry on. That wounded dread, I charged with a carnivore. I did no damage, and he took 9 wounds off me. And it's then stuck in the middle of his army. So he just Tech Marine pistols and the Hunter Killer off a thing. So I lose another knight to doing no damage to a dreadnought. I was like, okay. At this point, I'm also shooting him with brigands in melter range and not doing anything. Then I was like, well, it can't happen again. So I charge a carnivore into a dreadnought. I do no damage, and I take another 9 wounds. Rinse and repeat. Does this. So I shot him once and lost a knight, and I charged him twice and lost 18 wounds off carnivores for the sake of effectively 7 wounds on 1 dreadnought. So those dreadnoughts just went rampant. And it was just little things like, granted, he set up multiple things to maybe shoot something, but it was 3 Inceptors, shoot a knight, take 9 wounds off it. Dreadnought Whirlwind finishes it. Okay. They then shoot another knight, take 9 wounds off it. The 3rd unit of Inceptors kills it. So I'm like, okay. So I go first. My first 3 turns of shooting, I just about kill 3 dreadnoughts, 2 scouts, and the speeder. In his 3 turns of shooting, he kills 10 knights. So I was like, shit. There's nothing I can do about this. All my stuff is falling over. So it's one of those, I would still put this down as favorable in my matrix, but it can be a bit volatile. It's a lot of 3 damage. But with pretty much wounding on 5s and other than Inceptors not really getting a lot of reroll to wound, but then having obviously some auto wounds, it can do damage. But I think if I go forward and in 1 or 2 turns rinse those dreadnoughts, the board control kind of dies a little bit, and then I just run into the whirlwinds. So I think it should go my way. So that was the disappointing result that I had. So 10 against Tau, 10 against 2 Eldar armies, 18 against Eldar, and then 2 against things. So I ended up on 50 out of 100, and technically only winning 1 of my games. So, yeah, and that was the last game I played. So the first 4 games, I'm like, I would really like to actually win a game. But I did have to play Eldar 3 times, and I'll take 38 out of 60 against Eldar, I'll be honest. Yeah. Because it also just blunts their score for the team.
Exactly.
So overall, our Chaos list went out and smashed. Our Marine list was put forward a lot and did a job and got like 40. GK got preyed upon a couple of times, but also preyed a couple of times. Got a decent score. Tau got around the 50-point mark as well, so not bad. Although I think the Tau, we put a couple of times into things like Marines, and it just didn't. I think Marines are maybe a little bit too tough for Tau, and the indirect and such.
Yeah.
But yeah, so overall, our team came second because we played the team that came first, England Lions, and for shits and giggles, we decided to do absolutely random pairings. We put our 6 pieces of paper out with all our armies on, and then Tony from the 3rd team came over and randomly put them together. And I actually feel like we actually won those pairings, thanks to the luck of the gods. But with my game going that way, and one of our other games getting pretty badly diced as well, we ended up losing that round. So that was unfortunate. But then again, had we paired properly, probably wouldn't have gone our way anyway.
Yeah, I can see. You guys weren't even close with you or without you getting diced. So
in the end, yeah, because we had like Manny played Grey Knights, so
yeah, and he won 17-3. Yeah, he just pushes Grey Knights and Grey Knights full over.
It's technically 19-1 because Manny didn't paint his army for the first day because his niece hid his Forge Fiend somewhere in their house. So at 4 o'clock in the morning when he was packing his army, he was just like, where the F is my Forge Fiend? So he's had to borrow somebody's just spray painted one. So we actually lost 10 points per game. Still got 20-17 somehow. But that's just Manny doing Manny things. And yeah, so our Grey Knights lost badly to CSM, which it kind of will because it's the accursed version. We had Nassim playing double Wraithguard into our Tau. Our Tau actually got 5 points out of that, but I think he was kind of lucky to get 5 points out of that. We had me playing against Marines. I would have hoped to get 12 out of that. Ended up getting 2. CSM played Orcs. Got 16-4. Orcs find it very difficult to deal with the turn their block. Just, yeah.
CSM in general just go through Orcs.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Like originally I was wondering if Orcs had a decent amount of trading into CSM, but they just don't. CSM just hate AFC, -1 AP. It's just a nightmare for them. And then I think our other 2 games were not great for us either. Can't remember what our Marines played. But yeah. So yeah, we lost to the winners. But we beat other teams relatively I don't think we smashed anybody, but we consistently beat other teams that we played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good result on your end. Let us quickly go through the remaining two teams that ended up on top. So let me
Yes.
share my screen. And let me share these lovely slides that are very professional, as you are used to now, where you're watching or listening to our show. So the CSM list from England Lions was that's you guys, right? No,
No,
that's money.
yeah, that's Robbo's team. But this is Manny playing this list.
So yeah, this list is like absolute push. Triple Chaos Lord, triple Dark Commune, two Rhinos, triple Accursed Cultist, full squads, 10-5-5 Chosen, Forge Fiend, 5-5 Warp Talents, and 3-3 Nurglings. So it's just all in your face, one Forge Fiend on the board, which I think is interesting to talk about because after my game with Liam VSL and then sitting in the evening with him and Arnizer from Team Germany, we actually came to similar conclusion that people are overly investing into obliterators and forge fiends, in our opinion, and we
Yeah.
got into maybe not the triple accursed cultist line, but the line with more melee as well, or like the more rubrics. I think we are currently in one of our scrims against France, if I'm not mistaken. We're testing 5 rhinos full of marines
Sure.
and the forge fiend.
Like
And
I still maintain I like 2 Forge Fiends. I think in this list you could drop 5 Chosen, 5 Talons, 3 Nurglings, put a Forge Fiend in, and then put Blue Scribes in. The only problem is then 2 Rhinos feels a bit shit with only 5 dudes or 6 dudes in one of them.
yeah,
So do you drop the Rhino so you can get some other stuff in? So you can play around with some stuff. I like 2 Forge Fiends because in some games they just win. I'm not sure you need the 10-man chosen.
I don't like
Seems
10 mans.
overkill. Seems overkill
I
a lot of
still
the
feel
time.
like you win against Necrons by just shoving everything into that squad.
Yes, exactly. I personally like taking a Master of Possession because I think it gives you the option. He's got an extra 2. He has a 8-inch move rather than a 6-inch move. So getting out of a Rhino with a squad, you get 8 inches out, and he also gives you +1 to advance and charge. So effectively gives you an extra 4 inches. So sometimes with the 10-man chosen, it's quite nice to. I know you lose the Lord, who is most of the damage, but if the 10-man chosen's probably killing a lot of things these days, you can then just be like, well, on WTC terrain, a Rhino getting that extra 4 inches out, the threat range is a lot nicer on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's whether you have the 80 points spending on another character.
I really like the rubrics in this army.
Yeah.
So with the Rhino hatches and the damage you can deal with it, and because you normally cannot dark pact rubrics, but the Rhino that is using their weapons, you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you get the
So-
guns out of the top, and they're technically Nurgle then, so they also, you get the
Yes, exactly. They are
auto
5-6.
yeah.
So yeah,
And then you
I
also
really
get like you get the bringing the dude back. So somebody puts something into it, you lose a dude behind a wall, you can't finish them. CP bring a
it
dude
gives you
back.
Overwatch, so Chaff cannot just steal away your objective. Someone needs to push something more meaty. Yeah, I really liked it. Having my ass handed to me, obviously. But yeah, this one list, the another one was the one you played. So this is quite obvious approach of Iron Storm with triple tech marine, 3x3 plasma serptors, dark shroud, 3 redemptors, 3x5 scouts, 3 whirlwinds, and a Calidus. So I don't like shroud, as we talked about it at the beginning. I think with the army, I really liked what Skark was doing with repulsors. I think this might be something that people are sleeping on. So
What did you put in them?
scouts.
Okay, because Tony was taking. Oh, we'll go over his list later. Yeah, he was taking repulsors with stuff in them, which he liked.
At least it works. At least it worked for Scar. So this is nothing surprising in the army. Moving forward, there's the Grey Knights, which I think is interesting because I see a lot of versions of Grey Knights happening around. So there's Stern, 3 Librarians, Drygo, 10 and 5 Terminators, 5 and 5 Strike Marines, and 10 Paladins. And I was surprised that's the end of the list, but I guess that's the Grey Knight life.
That's it. Yeah, that is pretty standard. I think Grey Knights do a job now. I think they're quite good. They would be one of the ones that probably make an 8. I don't think they're getting a codex before.
No, they are not.
So they could still be around for next year's WTC. So depends. It's always nice to have like a mortals list that's good at cards on a team, I think. And also, I think from what we saw from the French events, they were pretty good into Eldar. They had some positive results.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And that's what we got from our tests as well. Then moving forward, there's the Eldar. So this is Nassim version with double Farseer, double Rave Guard, Spinner, and that list is playing the behind enemy lines Homer
basically,
as fixed approach to the game, quite straightforward. Then we have the Orc list, which is something interesting. What I'm really interested about when I'm looking at your scores, guys, is you played no Word Eaters. And I think you guys might be sleeping on them. Because in our games, they, except when Pumbaa is bitten by a 12-year-old child that careens into his deployment zone, I'm not even kidding. That was a thing. Pumbaa lost 17-3 to a 12-year-old that careened to kill an 8-band on an objective that Pumbaa was burning in his opponent deployment zone that was doing also capture enemy outpost and behind enemy lines. So that track careened like 11 inches into that side, popped 3 mortal wounds, that 8-band failed all of his feel no pains, and that was like 22-point swing.
Okay. Maybe I didn't get as badly as Diced against Robber.
Pumbaa, like, we left no remorse for Pumbaa. He had a rough day afterwards.
Sure.
And the kid was so happy.
Well, yeah.
He was so happy that he careened. There was also a situation of Angron charging the great white shark guy, Mozrox, Crackbat, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
That was on 1 wound, failing to kill it with Angron and dying.
Okay, yeah, maybe I didn't get as badly diced.
And then Pumbaa had another game against Space Wolves where he charged 10 infiltrators, killed 4 with Angron, and then next turn he charged another 10-man squad and killed 5. So just to remind you, it's like either 10 or it was 17 and 18 saves on 5s with AOC.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So Pumbaa had a very fun weekend.
I thought you were trying to sell World Eaters to me.
No, like, but to be fair, they work great. And
I like them a lot. I think it's I just don't. I'm trying to think of anyone in the 18 people that we took prolific World Eaters players or like had.
Wasn't Robo playing them for a moment?
He played them for a bit. We looked. One of our players has like the Jackal list. We thought about taking the Jackal list, but I think it was too much pain to get things like it. I think, especially my team, we flapped around on lists quite a lot. So depending on what the other teams are doing, it was whether they felt like they could get either any games or any practice with it. But yeah, I think definitely for 8 World Eaters make it. The less you take, I'm not sure. But it's
to be fair, when I was thinking about factions, because we had 7-hour drive with Scarred because we got pulled over twice for no reason. So we had a lot of time to spend talking while waiting for a policeman to make sure that his driver license is valid for some reason. I don't know, man. We figured out that there's maybe like 15 factions you can consider for 8 months now, so the field is quite open. But Orcs being the next army, with Badruk with his flash kits, 50 boys in 5 tracks, and Badruk in the another track, Warboss in Mega Armor with 5 Mega Nobs, Warboss with, I assume, 10 Nobs in one of the tracks, maybe, 3 times 5 Storm Boys, and the infiltrating Gretchen that just charge you into your deployment zone round 1 with Zod, Grot, and 10 Gretchen. Yeah. I quite like Oryx nowadays. I think they have a lot of good matchups, but I don't like the track list anymore. I think with how everyone is getting more into the transporty approach, Oryx feel worse compared to, say, Votan or CSM or Sisters in that gameplay. And I think there are other ways to explore it. Currently, we're exploring the Squeak Hog Boys approach, and it's working quite well so far.
Yeah, Orcs are kind of in that place where, as the game became a bit more MSU, it just feels a little bit like they're not smashing too many people, but they do have some bad matchups. The 2 England guys who were playing Orcs, they did kind of well. I think one's got like 55 and one got like 63, predominantly put forward. But they had some good scoring games against, say, like Eldar, which was interesting. I think Eldar maybe do struggle a little bit with having to deal with that much stuff. If you just block primary and block or kill all the stuff doing the secondaries, it trades pretty well. I think it is now that Orcs are in a good place, but they would be one of like the last picks I would take, because they just don't necessarily offer too much in pairings.
And then we have the Tau, Shadow Sun, Cold Star, 1 Crisis Commander, Direct Strider, Ethereal, 2 Broadsides, 6 and 3 Crisis, where some of them have Plasmas.
Yep.
Ghost Kill, Hammerhead, 2 times Crude Hounds, 2 Riptides, 2 times 3 Stealths, and no Tetras. I'm not buying it. Like, I think if you want to play Tau, you need to start your list with 6 Tetras, and then if you somehow need to drop 2, you can make it. But I don't like this list.
No, I don't think their team did either. But the Tau player was adamant that is what he wanted to take. So, yeah.
He did.
Yep, so he did.
And then there's the team that ended up 3rd, which is Igshide, which I love. Love the name.
Yeah.
I'm sure David also loves it. And
they should have won best name.
So there's a different approach to Tau first. Farside with 2 Cold Stars, 30 Breaches in 3 Fishes, 6 free Crisis, 4 Hounds, 10 Pathfinders, 2 Solo Piranhas, 3 Stealths, and 2 times 2 Tetras. I think nowadays, looking into Tau builds like this, or I think we're currently playtesting 3 Riptides, 3 Ghost Kills, just looking if anything sticks within Tau is the way to do it. But I still think the army just hates the transport meta because it has no good way of dealing with transports.
No,
and if you're even shooting your cyclics into that Rhino, you feel miserable when you lose some Crisis killing a Rhino. So you lose point equivalent of a Rhino when killing a Rhino.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, any Orcs have trucks. All CSM have Rhinos. Eldar have some tanks.
Votan's
full of transports.
Delgar nowadays also. Sisters also. And then you go and on.
CK, it's just all mech. Yeah, there's a bit too much.
Iron Storm being prevalent as Marines.
Yeah, the Tau.
I think this meta is just bad for Tau.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's another take on Eldar, which is quite.
That's Brian's list. That's what I played.
Yeah, this is you just take 2 spinners, then Rave Guard, get the classic Others Farseer Fugan Spirit Seer Incarn with 6 small units for mission play. In this case, being 15 Hogs, 10 Spiders, and 3 Shroud Runners.
I quite like the Shroud Runners just for first turn. If you're playing a list that some people might get 95, it can then get 96 because you get the first turn behind enemy, not behind enemy lines. Homers. Yeah. So I quite like the tech piece of the Shrouds. Other than that, pretty standard.
Yeah. Then moving forward, we have the classic, more Ignite version of CSM. So it's 3 Lords with 3 times Chosen in 3 Rhinos, and they have 3 times 5 rubrics with 1 Forge Feet, 2 Oblits, 5 Talons, Nurglings, and Silesk.
Yeah,
so,
this is a fixed list.
So this is something that very similar thing to what I played against when Liam played it. It feels awful to play against it as Votan. I genuinely do not recommend when you lose 1,300 points of your army in one turn. It is a little bit back-breaking. But yeah, nothing to talk about. Then we have Votan, which is Twineherd Champions, Cal, 20 Warriors, 6 Sagittars, 15 Berserks, 15 Halfguard, and 2 times 3 Pioneers. I kind of like this version more than just 30 Warriors. Because what I felt from the games I've played, that I usually didn't have many units that could deal with something behind the wall. Or I couldn't put enough pressure with just getting turn 1 and rushing all the sags. And with Berserks, I can actually apply more pressure by going first.
Yes, like our triple Wraith Guard played that, and actually the Berserkers do keep the Wraith Guard a little bit more at bay. At least I think we still won that game, but it stops it being a complete whitewash. Because I think 3 units of Berserkers is where I would go, especially on WTC terrain, and probably double Hearthguard is where I would go as well.
Yeah. Then we have Iron Storm, exactly the same list that we've seen before.
Yeah, it's the same as Robert.
3 Tech Marines, 3 times 3 Plasma Scepters, Dark Shroud, 3 Redemptors, 3 times 5 Scouts, 3 Whirlwinds, Kalidas. You guys surely tested different ideas. And then you have Necrons, which are different, with only 20 Warriors, 10 Lich Guard, 10 Praetorians, and the regular support stuff with like Orican, Technomancer, Reanimator, Ghost Arc, but also Tesseract Arc, which I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Last time I've seen them was in 9th. But yeah, that's all of those lists. But I want to give you one list from Pyra that we brought in our team, and I want to see your reaction, because Duda was like 4th highest scoring player with this list. I don't know if you had the pleasure to see it.
No, I've not seen the Pyra list.
So let's start with it. Outer Grey Leaper with Phoenix Gem, Hugin, Visarch, Incarn, Troopmaster, Ivrain. Then there's Wave Serpent, Falcon, Fire Dragons, Night Spinner, Shroud Runners, 5 Hawks, 11 players, 5 players.
That's definitely testing.
So he was highest scorer on our team.
Feels very 4th edition. I've not seen that many Falcons in a while. I'd have to see it on table.
Like the fact that there's fire dragons out of all things.
Yeah.
And I actually saw Duda play it, and it slaps. And I genuinely, when looking at the list, like, it's still Eldar, but it doesn't make sense.
No, It doesn't make sense at all. But
And after
Duda
the
is a
event,
very good player.
and I think it's like Duda is like 15 reps in with this army.
Right.
And he loves Visage. He actually thinks it's one of the best models he included in the list. So
I can't even picture what the visage looks like. I literally can't think of what it looks like.
yeah, so
that's
just something that you need to look for, and maybe you guys will figure out. I genuinely would try to give you an example how it works, but I don't really know fully. I know it's just Duda being tired of Raveguard, and he thinks Raveguard have more bad pairings than his list. So God bless him.
Yeah, I think the general theme of talking to a lot of Eldar players at the moment is the games are very much. When I talked to Brian after the event, he was just like, I literally played the same game every time with Eldar. It's very boring. The Eldar is kind of, unless you go experimental like that, the Eldar lists are very similar. I think they're kind of in a bit of a boring place at the moment. And it's one of those, while super powerful, everybody's getting or has reps into them. So I guess he's done quite well because nobody knows how to play that version of Eldar. But
so he won 16-4 against one of our national team players on World Eaters, 14-6 against Guard from Team Germany, 15-5 against the Polish national team CSM player, then 20-0 Guard from Belgium, and won 19-1 against World Eaters.
Okay. Well, yeah, I can see World Eaters having a problem, depending on what the World Eaters list is.
Visage giving you fight first is a very painful thing for World Eaters.
Yeah, what can she join? Troop units.
Troops.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fight first is. Yeah, against World Eaters, that's very painful.
But yeah, it's just food for thought. I really like this list, and with Duda being the pioneer of certain ideas like Fugan, whenever he finds something weird, which surely doesn't look good on paper, I'll gladly make it more visible because,
yeah, I think
being very biased.
No, I think that is what teams allows you to do a lot more is be creative. I think
he also won singles with this list, just so you know.
Oh, fair enough. He's just the master of armies then. Yeah, like Tony's team, who ended up coming joint fourth. They came sixth, but joint fourth on points.
Yeah.
They took a lot more creative, interesting lists. Like Tony had impulsors filled with literally they've gone from the meta in like 3 months. What are they called? Indirect guys.
Desolators.
Desolators, thank you. He had Desolators in those, and he actually thought they were quite good. He was trying out Talon Masters, things like that, seeing if they're good. Tony's very much one of those players who, by the time, if he plays for the WTC this year, if he's on Marines, he'll have played absolutely every single unit from that codex up until the event to then go, I know what's really good, I'll take this. Whereas some people get the Eldar list and tweak 200 points of it, but play the same version every time.
And I think with us having, 7 months to the event, 8 months, or 9 months, I cannot into math. Like, you should be not playing the cookie cutter armies. Right. Everyone knows them.
But then again, obviously, that's the argument we have where our tournament circuit and your tournament circuit, one's much better for the teams than the others. Like, you guys play more team events, you guys play WTC, you play WTC scoring. We have a very active single scene, which pushes you to get big egos and play certain armies because if you want to win these 350,000 man events or whatever we have, you pretty much have to take
Eldar. You just have to play Sisters.
Sisters are very good. I've been looking at them quite a lot because I've been painting a shitload of Sisters at the moment for Robbo. Granted, most of the stuff I've been painting is not meta. I did not enjoy having to put 27 penitent engines and mortifiers together from Chinese Restic. That wasn't fun. And I'm painting them right now. And then 9 war suits. I'm like, well, you're never going to use more than 3 of these. But anyway, he wants everything available, and he bought it under 9th, so it's a lot.
I do the same.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. I've been looking at a lot of sisters lists, and I actually really, really like them. I think they've got a lot of. Whether you
I just
take
played with them today in TTS, so I'm taking them against French screen. I'm taking them to an event in 2 weeks, and in a month, and in 5 weeks. So gonna get reps.
I'll definitely hit you up about where you are with lists and things like that. Because obviously, the first time I wrote a couple of lists, they're very cookie cutter. Triple Exorcist, 2 Castigators, 3 Arco-Flagellants characters, like one Battle Sister squad. It's like,
yeah,
it seems a bit generic. Maybe there's more options in there.
Yeah, but this can transition us nicely to the only question we got for this week's show, which, by the way, if you are listening and you want to propose topics for those shows or for additional ones we might just record with Pumba being here, it's not only going to be the bi-weekly shows, I imagine sometimes. You can hit us up on the Patreon. Everything is in the description. And then when you join the Discord, you can freely shoot us questions. Obviously, we answer usually the YouTube ones, but the Discord ones have priority if we are starved on time or we went overboard with the whole episode. But that's the only question that I got from Team Netherlands. Chris, what role do you see sisters playing in teams? And I want to hear it from you, Nathan, because I'm biased as fuck.
So I think where sisters are at the moment, looking at, I've seen, I know Vic took them to an event recently, and he enjoyed them. They definitely feel like they can definitely blunt a lot of armies. They have some of the best indirect in the game. Actually, bar maybe. Actually, piece to piece, I think they do have the best indirect. Just Night Spinners are really good because you have a Young Khan. They've got a lot of great cheap options. They've got a lot of MSU. Great characters like the Saint Celestine's amazing. Being able to get back up is just part of the better units in the game now.
She's the only character in Sisters that can fail to back up.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those good army ability, good cheap units. Flagellants are great for their points. Feel no pain. Being able to do a lot of attacks. I think I would use them as maybe more of a, I don't know if I want to say put forward, but like middle ground, put forwardy, blunty. Have the odd game that they're maybe favoured in, but I don't see them getting too badly smashed, but also not smashing too many people.
I think like you can make an argument with them being a defender, but them being an early defender means someone can throw away their bad armies.
Yes, that is sometimes you'll see us be like, you can't really put that forward first because then you go, which 2 armies have the worst matrix? Go play for a draw, and then we've got one of our dead fish out of our matrix. I think the only other thing with sisters is when it comes to say WTC or other such things, for events now they have a bit of a premium in people have never either played them or don't know how to play them. WTC, it's sometimes you get to a case if you get 2 or 3 reps into a list, you go, okay, yeah. So say for example Poland takes sisters or Germany takes sisters or whoever, you go, okay, well the couple of the top teams are taking sisters. Let's get some reps into them. Okay, I kind of know what we're doing now. Whereas
with them not getting a codex, I think their situation is not as great as well because there's not as much available in that index, I think. So
No, I
if you've
was
played a
struggling.
little bit into one of the lists, it will translate mostly into others, which wasn't a thing with, say, Necrons being played by Liam Hackett last time, or people who will not play against the Unending Swarm or however it's called in Nits will not know how to play against it. And if you do not know how to play against it, you will clock out, not the Nits player. You will clock out. So
Yes. Yeah. But I think they're in a good place. Again, like we said earlier, there is like teams are in a fantastic place right now where you actually have a variety of options. It's just having the players playing certain armies.
I don't think there was ever a situation that was that good in terms of teams. With how much I recall, building 8-mans. 5-mans, I think, is a little bit more rough.
Sure. Yeah.
But 8-mans, I feel, is way more open.
The very end of 9th edition was good, but then, I mean, I'm talking like the last 2 months before the 10th edition rulebook came out. But then obviously it came out, so we never really got to see any super major team events other than the last ITT in England, where there was a good variety of armies that were very competitive. But yeah, right now is very good for teams. And it seems like if there are NIDs or Marines are a good indication. The codex creep we've had of definitely 9th edition hopefully is not a thing. Or will be dealt with a lot quicker.
But at the same time, the first codexes of 9th were also not as powerful. So
that is true. So hashtag Josh.
Let's hope. I hope.
Yeah.
If it happens. Yeah. Anyway, with not many questions happening and us just running through the events, I think we do not really have a topic for next 2 weeks because I don't think there's any team events with the Winter Team Championships not happening finally. It will be just before Atlanta. So we'll see. Maybe we'll touch a little bit upon Atlanta with their lists, how we see that developing. Maybe we can look at. Yeah.
There's a team event in Cardiff this weekend, which I think there's 1 or 2 Team England teams, Team Ignite are taking a team. So at least we'll have a little bit of that to fall back on if we are.
Yeah, but I would like, and this is like an open question to people listening or later in the podcast or now live, to look at Atlanta and group the ideas by a country. Because I think we can see the different metas even in a meta like this kind of be seen with how the teams are collaborating within themselves. I think that one would be very interesting to see, even in a singles meta, how nations will look differently at it. Granted, from Poland, we only have one person coming, so there's not going to be much of Polish meta. But other countries I know will have few players coming over. And I hope it's not just CSM, because in my opinion, if you want to win this event, you just go for CSM.
Interestingly, Eldar's coming out on top a little bit more than CSM recently, here anyway.
But Eldar can be countered. And
Yes,
CSM, I don't think so.
No, that is true. Yeah, the singles meta a little bit now at the moment it's a little bit more, if you want to win, it's a little bit CSM or Eldar. Like, for example, Josh was at Hellstorm this weekend, which had cash prizes, which I'm personally not a fan of. I don't know what the wider community feels about cash prizes. Josh was part of an 8-man Masters event on the Saturday, and then you go into the Sunday 120-man event. Basically, if you play 3 games, you take 3 wins going into the event. So Josh got to the final for the Masters and lost to Alex Petford, who's a former Team England player, and then got to the final of the 120-man event and also lost the final to Alex Petford. So it was Eldar versus Eldar and then Eldar versus Eldar. So there is still very much a singles meta of Eldar are quite dominant. At least the old Josh took a slightly different Eldar list, but it just did. The dice were not in his favor that time.
Okay. Anything to add
No.
on the closing notes? Then thank you for listening, and hopefully I'll make this one on Spotify earlier than week afterwards.
Nice.
See you.